Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. For obvious reasons, I'm not really in the mood to do videos, but I've got a lot of repotting to do, and what I'll probably do is just take the sound off and put some music and speed the whole thing up, because otherwise it's going to be elongated to say the least. And yes, those are Phalaenopsis, and this is not a Phalaenopsis repotting video. I don't do those. But anyway, I've got a lot to do. This is only some of them. There's a couple of large Phalaenopsis there, one with a dodgy leaf that I'm a bit worried about. There's a bulbophyllum that looks like it's in moss that's very broken down. There's a little epidendrum. I haven't got a clue what I'm supposed to be doing with that, but I want it out of the moss. There's a twinkle. That's probably going to get mounted. I may do that separately. I've got a lot to do. I might not have time to do that one, you know, slowly and carefully with all the words and all that stuff. And my Dendrobium harveyanum has just got to come out of that pot. So that's what I'm up to. As I said, I'll probably just speed the whole thing up, but it's no skin off my nose to just leave the camera running, and some people may get something out of it. So I don't get my sleeve in the pots. Scissors being sterilised, rubbing alcohol, hydrogen peroxide ready to clean the base of the plants up and the roots and stuff like that. Make sure there's no snails and other... Basically, when an orchid's in a pot, the only thing that should be living in that pot are the roots of the orchid, and anything else that's in there needs to be dead. I'm fed up with little things chewing away at my plants, and I'm on top of that now. People don't like the way I've done it necessarily because of the use of the chemicals, but I am virtually bug free. I haven't seen any scale on my plants for a long time now, and they have killed some of my plants. I've lost a couple of Tolumnias, it's not funny. So they're virtually gone. I still see the odd mealybug now and again, but that can Q-tip, dab of alcohol, dead. So we're not doing bad there. Anyway, let's get going. As I said, I shall probably just speed this up. Yeah, that leaf's got to come off. These are just store-bought Phalaenopsis. They're in whatever they were in when I got them, and some of these roots have really latched onto the pot and gone through the bottom. Some of them will be lost. Does it look like I'm bothered? I wish I hadn't watered this. Yeah, there's a few dead roots on there. There's quite a few viable roots on there. With a clean up in the sink. If all the bark doesn't come off, I'm not fussed. It's large bark. It's not badly broken down, but it is a bit niffy, so it's starting to go. So now's a good time to get it. And as I said, that leaf has got to come off, but there's no point in cutting that off and putting cinnamon round the cut. It will fall off on its own, but I just don't like the look of some of the marks on it, so I'd rather take it off now and save anything getting into the base of the plant. That could happen, I'm not saying it will. And obviously I've got washing, cleaning to do. There's no point in putting cinnamon on until I've done all that, and then I'll actually touch the edge of that leaf up. But that's not a bad root system. That will live. Next, this is another big one. And the problem I've got with this one is this was potted too low in the pot, and those two small seedling leaves are still down in the media. Now those will come off because I still want to keep the plant at that sort of level. So I will take those off so that I can keep the plant low in the pot. These are ones that were just bought in flower last year for a couple of quid for a bit of colour. Now a lot of these are dead. Yeah, a lot of them are dead. Some of them aren't, so that's not a good root system for such a huge plant. Tiny little new leaf just starting. Bit of slug damage from last year. Yeah, a lot of root loss on that one. No obvious reason why, because the bark's not broken down, it's not all soggy, but all those dead roots will have to come off, trimmed back to the base, leaving the live ones into some nice new media. That's you done. Right, lolly stick bulbophyllum. The only reason this is coming out is it's I don't know what it's in, and I'm just not too keen on that moss. And it's got bark in the bottom as well, so I'll do something with that. I've got a feeling this may have just been sort of jammed in the pot, but the fact that the top of the moss has gone green, it's probably been in that pot quite a while. I think that will probably do less damage if I use the tap to get that moss out. But inside there are some viable roots. It's not a bad little plant. We'll see how we go with that. I think this is one of my new ones. What's on the tag? No, this isn't. This is from a haul a while ago, so it's actually been sat in this pot longer than it should have been anyway. I'm a little bit behind with my repotting. I have to either be in the mood or get pressure. You know, the pressure being it's been in the pot too long. If I don't do it now, I'm probably going to lose even more roots. So that's what I call a pressure repot. It just needs doing. I mean, at the moment it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I've been up a couple of hours. I'm awake enough to do some repotting. I usually do my repotting in the afternoon in a relaxed form, but I do have other things to do. That's not bad. Yeah, there's some nice roots on there. And this is a compact bulbophyllum. Yeah, it doesn't have huge, big, long, creeping rhizomes. I'm not sure that new growth is actually going to make it. The top leaf did actually go brown and fall off. But whether it will push on or not, it's got some little roots coming out, I don't know. We will see. That's that one done. And a lolly stick one. This is the yellow twinkle that's in that coconut stuff, which I don't like. Now this may just go in a pot. It's all very well saying, you know, I like my mounted orchids, but there is a downside of mounted orchids. It's the workload. And my workload is now quite high. I'm coming up to daily watering of the mounts. And if I do it quickly, in an organised fashion, I can knock them out in about an hour. But that's an hour every single day from very soon. Not yet, I'm still weather conscious. Yeah, that's got that horrible solid moss plug in the middle. I've got to try and get that out. That does nothing but kill the centre part of the plant. Probably, again, I'm going to have to use the tap. But that's not a bad little root system, not bad. And there is one new growth just coming on there. Most twinkles seem to push their new roots out after the new growths get going a bit, rather than at the same time as the new growths. Oh, there's another little new growth there. And another one there. And another one in the middle. So there's 4 new growths on that little plant. They will push on. They will be my next lot of flowers in a while. In a while, probably towards the end of the growing season. But I've got it. Look, this solid mass. I know it's, you know, the sellers do it to sell plants. They don't do it for the benefit of the plant. But, you know, you get your little plants out of a flask and you put them in little tiny plug pots with some moss, and they grow on and grow a nice little root system, and the plants push on. And then they just take those plugs out, dunk them in another pot. There's no care or attention or anything. They just plonk them in another pot and put some sort of media round the edges. And then they grow them on again in ideal conditions until they bloom, and then they chuck them out on the benches for us to buy. And often the media that they put in around the outside is already beyond its sell-by date, and the plug in the middle has long since gone acidic and taken the roots out in the centre of the plant. That's how it is. That's how the, you know, the sort of big mass producers work. They have to work with speed and economy, or they don't make a living. And if, you know, you have to think of it, if they don't make a living, we don't get to buy their plants. So it's up to us to deal with them when we get them. That's actually a nice little plant. In the sink. Right, Harveyannum is in bloom, don't care. It needs to come out of this pot. Looking at my records, it's been in this pot 6 months too long already. And that's just me being silly with this business of, well, it's in flower, I'll wait. But given that this is nearly always in flower, how long do I wait? Well, the waiting's over, it's coming out. God, these clips are a pain to get off. I don't need to worry about losing the tag on this. I don't think I'll forget which one it is. I love these little flowers. If only they were fragrant as well, but they're not. Oh, this has been in this pot flipping ages. Ugh. It's probably going to go back in a pot rather than on a mount. But this is a different one. In the repotting world, the last time this was repotted, I did it. So this is my, God, it's solid. That is a solid mass of media and roots. God knows how I'm going to get that lot out. The tap springs to mind. I'm just going to try and have to flush that until I get as much of that media out as possible. But I mean, it is a good root system. The really large chunky bark that was put in the bottom of the pot has grabbed hold of an awful lot of the roots. And those root ends are probably going to be damaged. It's a branching root system. So any root tips on the longer roots that I break will not cause a problem. It will just, the roots will just branch out higher up the plant. Yuck, moss. So that's that one. And this little thing, I haven't got a clue what I'm supposed to be doing with this, but I don't like this stand thing that it's on. And again, new plant, don't know what it's in, got to come out. It's got to come out. Oh, and these have been wired on. That's a good way to damage the stems. Right. It releases this thing, whatever it is. I don't know whether it's got bars across it. It might have another one down in the pot, so I'm not just going to yank it out. No, it hasn't. That's all right then. Then we can play the what's in my pot. And it's a tiny little delicate plant. It's not a tiny little delicate plant. It's a load of little plants stuck together to try and make a show. It's still what I call cheating, because you think you're buying one plant that's a good size when in fact you've got 3 tiny little plants with dead roots. Those are all dead roots. So whether I can save that or not. But you know, I thought even though I'd watered that plant, it didn't hydrate. Well, there's the reason. Yeah, these roots are just dead. Why they are dead, I don't know. Now all I can do with this is try and recover it. And I'd be dubious whether that makes it, quite honestly. I mean, this was a free gift. You shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth, but you also shouldn't be selling plants with totally dead root systems. Yeah, there's no viable roots on any of those little plant pieces, so whether I can get that to shoot out or not, I don't know. I'd say doubtful, but we'll try. Right, let's go all out the pots. I'll shut down while I clean the plants up, and then, as I said, the actual repotting bit I will probably just do fast and speed it up and all that sort of stuff. I haven't tried speeding up a video before. That'd be fun. I'll be back. Okay, welcome back. Quick analysis, having sort of done a bit of a clean up. You put plants up for sale with root systems like that, I'll buy them. That's my root system from my last repot, and boy did I have trouble cleaning that bark out of there. Some roots are damaged. There is nowhere near any point in trying to trim off the very few dead roots there are. They can just stay. I'll do more harm cutting good roots trying to get at the ones that aren't so good, and there are so few of them I can't be bothered. There's a few old canes that can come off now. I can see what I'm doing. One fell off. The chances are those couple of blooms are going to be ex-blooms any minute now. There's still a couple of spikes just coming, they'll push on, but the plant could do with, quite honestly, a little bit of a rest. That's been blooming so much. And what I have noticed is I've got a lovely little kiki there with a viable root system. So I'm going to separate that off and actually plant that separately. You know, this is a plant that people will like because of these gorgeous little blooms. And as a consequence, that's a sellable kiki once it gets a bit of a hold. Somebody else would like that, I expect. Anyway, that's that one. Pleased with that. I haven't actually done the hydrogen peroxide and trimmed the old canes and everything on that one yet. I just want to get this section. All the rest are in the sink. They still need washing off. They're covered in hydrogen peroxide at the moment. That dead leaf will have to be trimmed near the base and then some cinnamon put on it. That's not a bad root system. Obviously dark green at the moment, simply because it's just been thoroughly washed. But yeah, I mean, you know, that will pull on now. That will be a reasonable plant. Just a store-bought Phalaenopsis. But that's not a bad root system. I'll live with that one. And this is a bit of a giant of a plant, and a lot of these roots were dead, but having taken them all off, I've seen a lot worse than that recover very, very quickly. There's enough good roots on there to pull that plant through. But I will take off these lower leaves. They're seedling leaves. That is important. That means that plant has probably been grown on nicely. Whoever did this plant, yeah, that started as a seedling and has been pushed on and not been done too badly on the grounds that the seedling leaves are still there. Pity about the slug damage, but you know, we live and, you know, we've got them, or I have anyway. That's the one beauty of growing in the home, I suppose. The slugs and snails are not a problem, whereas in a greenhouse type environment, they get in whether you like it or not. That'll do. That's a nice plant. The little bulbophyllum was potted badly. There were 3 pseudo bulbs down in the media that were just rotten, so they've come off, and that will now sit on top of the media and hopefully pull on. That only needs a tiny little pot, and because I haven't got tiny little shallow pots and I haven't got saucers or anything, it'll go in a normal pot with just chunky bark halfway up the pot. And then this can sit in the media on the top. I can hydrate it as much as it needs. Not a bad root system. There are still some dead ones in there, but like I said, when you start trimming off good roots trying to get at the dead ones, it's time to stop. So that's that one. The good news is, having cleaned this up, this little epidendrum thing, there are actually some viable roots. They're not good, but hopefully there's enough there to allow that plant to pick up. And that little plant has got 1 or 2, just about. Not good, but possible. And this one has 1 root, and the end of it's rotten, but it may branch. It can go in the pot. If it dies, it can just be pulled out again. So that'll be 3 little plantlets to go in a very, very tiny pot. There's no point in over-potting things. If it takes off like a rocket and roots start coming out all over the place, I can just lift it out and put it in a slightly larger pot. A pot on rather than a repot. The little yellow twinkle, that's a nice little root system. Quite pleased with that. Couldn't get all the bark out. But yeah, I mean, that will pull on nicely. They're branching root systems on these. So, you know, any damaged root tips that I've done, because I'm in a bit of a... There's sometimes you do things really carefully and sometimes you just hurry. This is one of these hurry days. But yeah, that'll pull on. That would look nice mounted, quite honestly, but I don't want all my twinkles mounted. You know, I want to cover my options. Some in pots, because of where they go in their pots, their flower display is in a different place to the mounted ones. So that one's going to go in a pot. So those are they. And as I said, I now need to get them in their pots and in their selective medias. Okay? Okay, let's knock some of these out then. I'm using a shallow pot, not because that needs a shallow root run, but because the leaves will sit on the edge of the pot and help keep the plant still, and that root ball fits in there quite nicely. Okay, let's see what we can do with this little thing. That's my small grade bark. It's the smallest I've got, and as I said, I'm going to use about half and half with the moss. And what I always do is squeeze my moss. It's wet, obviously, it's been soaking to hydrate it, but I squeeze the water out. Like I say, I like to pot with dry media. With moss, that's not possible, but I can get the worst of the water out of it by giving it a squeeze. And then, because this has got to be small media to try and encourage these little roots, the moss gets broken up very, very small, and it allows it to get all in amongst the small bark and make a more even mix. Big long strands and small bark, you will end up with bits with moss in and other bits with no moss at all. That little one done. Beautiful little flowers on it, but they are tiny. Let's hope that little one recovers. It's quite a nice little plant. I know it was a freebie, and you know, but that doesn't matter. A plant's a plant. How you got it doesn't matter, whether it was a gift from a friend or you bought it or whatever. I know you get a bit annoyed if you've paid a lot of money for a plant and you come to repot it and it's got no frickin' roots. That is annoying. And it shouldn't really happen, but it does. It will continue to happen. We live with it. Okay, that's that one done. Now again, next plant will be, I think I'll do the twinkle next. That will get a mix of large and small bark, and I'll have to find a suitable sized pot for that one. I'll be back. I found a cute little pot for the twinkle to go in. It's a shallower pot than normal. It's got some really large holes in the bottom as well. So put some chunky bark, a very thin layer of chunky bark. When roots are not vigorous, they can have a problem with layering in the pots with bark mixes. Not so much if sponge is in, if moss is in there, but it still happens. And it dries out dramatically from the top, and then you get a sort of semi-moist bit and you get a soggy bit in the bottom. Well, by putting really large bark pieces in the bottom, that takes away that layer because the air can get in underneath. Yeah, so the big bark in the bottom dries fast. So the only layering effect you may get is the bit in the middle, and that's the bit you need to watch. Yeah, if that's still soggy, the only thing I can suggest is you spray the top of the pot that's gone dry so that you don't add much more water into that centre portion. When the roots are growing actively, quite honestly, you don't get the layers. You really don't, because the roots are all in the media, all over the place, and are taking the moisture out of that media as they need it. Right, that's that one done. What are we going to do next? We'll do the bulbo next, I think. Now again, these are relatively shallow rooted. The only reason these roots look quite long, what I need to do is spread them. I need to do that in a pot. So again, I'm going to need a wideish pot if I can. If I can't find one, I'll have a deep pot and put a lot of chunky stuff in the bottom. It's easily solved. Right, let's go and get myself sorted out for that one. I'll be back. Okay, for a bulbo it would have been nice to have a nice sort of wide shallow pot. Haven't got any, so how do you turn a deep pot into a shallow pot? Fill it with chunky bark. It's now only that deep. So what the plant will be in, the media it will grow in, is shallow. And because that's chunky bark with holes in the bottom of the pot, it won't stay too wet. Right, that's that little one done. That leaves Harveyanum. That's going to be fun, isn't it? It's a big one. Right, sort out what I'm going to do with Harveyanum then. Okay, Harveyanum then. Good root system. I've trimmed off some of the leafless canes, things like that. On a vigorous plant like that, things like that serve no purpose apart from making it look untidy. There's a cane I'd like to cut off there. It's actually got a flower spike on it at the moment. Good thing to notice about this is that although the initial flower spikes always come out near the top of the canes, it gradually moves back down. So there's a new spike coming here. That's quite low down on the cane. So that's probably why this is in constant bloom. It's because it's capable of pushing out spikes at various places on the cane, not just at the top. And I'll just come back and show all the plants in one go with a bit of a tidy up before I finish this one off. Okay, nice little session there. That's 2, 4, 6 plants done. The Oncidium Twinkle, that will get watered. I'll go and do that, and then I'll have to keep my eye on this bark because it dries fast when it's new, but it's in pure bark. That can now stay in that pot for years. And when it's filled the pot, I'll think about doing it again. But that can just stay. A couple of large store-bought Phalaenopsis. Again, they can stay in that pot for years now, and their roots will eventually eat the media. They will fill the pot with roots, or they'll die, one or the other. And again, this one, plenty of room for root growth in there. It can fill the pot. And it looks much better without that manky leaf on it. So again, it can stay in that pot probably 3 years, maybe even 4. This little epidendrum, I don't know whether that's going to make it or not. I'd like it to, because it's unusual. You know, it would be nice if it makes it, but it's very, very poor roots. But a couple that may pull it through. That one will get watered now, make sure it's wet. The little bulbophyllum, again, that's sat in that much media. Yeah, might look like a big pot, but this isn't growing media, this is air media. This is to let air in and allow it to dry quicker, and then I'll water it to keep it moist. That's my bit. A couple of new growths on that one. It's a miniature and it's not a climber or a rambler, so that can probably stay in its pot for a while, but the fact that it's got moss in it, its repotting time will come round a bit quicker. That's that one. I'll put the names when I do the video. And the Dendrobium Harveyanum, again, it's in pure bark. It can stay in there for years now. It's going to fill that pot. Yeah, it'll just fill that pot up, and it can stay there and just do its thing, which is what we like. Okay, so those are they. As I say, a bit of a manic repotting session, but job done. I may do some more this afternoon. I may be all repotted out, because there comes a time when it becomes a chore. That's the time to stop and do some another day. So that's my lot maybe for today. I've got other things to do, and then I may come back to repotting this afternoon. There's still some on the list, some are in red, which means do it now. Get on with it. Stop wasting your time and talking about it. So thanks for dropping by. A right mixture there, all sorts. And I swore I'd never do a Phalaenopsis repotting video, and I didn't. You didn't see that, okay? Don't tell anyone. See you next time. Happy growing and all that stuff.